Hey everybody, welcome. How you doing? Hey, so this is gonna be a crazy day. I have no idea where this is gonna go, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. My name's John Limcool. This is the Plugin Guru live stream. We do this every Saturday at 12 o'clock. And we have some special guests today because I'm gonna be showing you guys the new Korg collection version 3 that just came out of synthesizers that Korg has made that are now available in software form. They added 3 new synths, and I thought it'd be fun if I brought along, for while talking about this synth, the people that made the voicing, the patches that are in it. What year was that? When was the Prophecy voice?
95, I think.
85.
95.
95.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay. Well, so everybody, I'll show you the synth in a minute, but say hello to my friends. These are dear brothers from other mothers. We've got Andrew Schlesinger, and we've got Peter Schwartz, and we've got Jack Hotop. Say hello. How are you doing, Andrew?
Hello.
Jack is probably the grand poopah of the group. When I joined Korg, I did a red-eye flight. I worked at a music store in Seattle. I did a red-eye flight to New York to do a dog and pony on the M1 with Ben Dowling and Jack Hotop in the room. And it was really fun. It went really well. Let's see, spotlight. Go like this. How you doing, Jack?
Doing great, thank you. Having fun.
I like the background you have there.
Well, it's always good to journey in the woods when one does sound design. I just figured, keeping both eyes on the forest is a good approach.
Totally agree. Eyes to the forest, for sure.
Actually, that's where sound design started with Cro-Magnon Man. I believe he grabbed 2 vines and 2 pieces of wood, and after putting them in front of his cave, he found 2 rocks so that when people came up to the cave, they would swing the vines with the wood into the rocks, and lo and behold, the doorbell was the first preset. And that's what happened on caves. So it was actually Cro-Magnon Man's first patch that goes back to the forest. So I like to join him there every now and then. Oh my
God, man.
Could they sync it to a master clock?
No, it was cave sync.
Cave sync.
Cave sync.
Right, they like smoke signal alignment between different tribes, right?
Right, it was like the movie Quest for Fire, which they just could have called Got a Match.
So just so people know, Jack, what was the first synthesizer you did voicing for Korg on?
I started working for Korg in 1983, and I made a few presets for the Poly 800, and I think the company thought, hey, this guy's crazy, we like him, we'll let him stay.
And so you've worked on pretty much everything. There's a few of the digital synths from the Korg departments and stuff that they've done, but you've been involved in all those, the M1, or the DW8000, the DSS1, the DS8. Did you work on Prophecy? Did you make patches for Prophecy?
No, when we were doing the Prophecy, I was working on the SGX Pro, and there were times in our voicing history where up until from the early years, from 1983 up till 1987, I was doing programming for Korg. The M1 was the first time that Korg Inc. said, hey, let's get the programmers together and have them collaborate and work together with Korg engineers,
right?
Which is when Ben Dowling, Peter McKelly, Robbie Kilgore, and I, and Athan Bilius, of course,
right?
Started collaborating, and that continued to build. You jumped in on the T series, and of course for the Wave Station and a million other products since then. And there were, all of a sudden development was such that there were a couple of different projects. We had to split the team up into different projects a couple of times. One was for the I series, another time was for the Z1 and the Prophecy.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a bunch of other synths that I didn't work with.
Right.
Or
yeah, we'd be targeted. I worked on the Wave Station during, or no, the Wavedrum during Prophecy, because I was working with Synth Kit, doing algorithm design and stuff while Prophecy was going on. Well, let me bounce around here. Peter Schwartz. Let me replace Spotlight. How are you?
I'm good.
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you. It's been way too long.
I know.
Several names ago.
Peter Schwartz has, let's see, I first met you about the T series in New York, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time that I went out, we did voicing meetings a couple times in Long Island.
Long Island.
Yeah. Now you live in LA.
I'm in LA.
For those of you that don't know, Peter has a wonderful career in the music industry with, like, I mean, you worked on the Wave Station with us, with Korg, and Prophecy and Z1. Did you work on the Z1?
Not Z1. Let me see. It started with the DS8.
Okay.
Then M1. Then and the T series and Prophecy, Wave Station.
Right.
Spent about a year and a half on the Oasis. And then let's see, O1W. I think I'm leaving something out. And then the Wave State and
Wave
the
State.
Mod Wave.
And Mod Wave. So those two, I worked with you on Wave State. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
We pat each other on the back a few times along the way.
Oh yeah, cried on each other's shoulders.
Oh man, it's
but
yeah.
There it is.
There it is, and people love it, and it sounds great. I love mine. I haven't played with the Mod Wave.
The Mod Wave. Well, I think there are a scant few of them out there.
Yeah. When
you get your hands on that, you're gonna love it. It's just its own animal.
Yeah. Well, my wavetables that I made for Serum, they licensed all of those, so those are part of Mod Wave samples.
Okay.
So a lot of the wavetables in the heart of it are mine, but I didn't make any patches. Right. So guys, the libraries, I have a sale going on at the website. If you get Mega Wave for Serum, it has the same sample set of wavetables that are in Mod Wave, and they're also in their Electribe Wave for the iPad. That's where they originally licensed those samples, my wavetables for. And then we made a new agreement, and they're using them in Mod Wave. So, and the library is $25 for both libraries. So it's like over 200 patches for Serum, using all these really cool wavetables that are now used in other things as well. So
there's a ton of variety in the way the wavetables were labeled in the Mod Wave at the time we were working on patches. I mean, they all had fairly cryptic names, so I don't know which ones you did and which ones.
Right. Yeah,
but there's a lot of great sounding wavetables in there, and I don't know if you know this, but you can select 2 different wavetables per oscillator, and you can morph between them. And
oh wow,
there are 2 oscillators per patch, so you can literally get 4 wavetables going at once. And
I can't wait to play with it. I mean,
it's quite the adventure, and the variety of. I know we're not here to talk about the Mod Wave, but
we're just talking everything. This is just like we're people that have contributed greatly to Korg's wealth of sounds over the years, and so I thought it was really cool. I mean, there's 10 synthesizers in the collection now from Korg that you get for right now. It's $2.99 at the Korg website to get 10 different Korg synthesizers that sound incredible, and 5 of those I worked on. Jack, I think you worked. I mean, the Minikorg, that really didn't have any voicing, right?
Not the original unit. It had no presets, even though it had a really good design that allowed users to use switches and sliders to create sounds quickly and easily. Certainly, the Cars, a lot of other bands, help, and also the price point on you know, the Minikorg.
Plus, it has that sound. I mean, it's just such a great, rich sound, and there's so many great patches. I don't know if you've seen the interface, but they have a whole pack here, pack of like foot pedals right after the Minikorg itself. So they made it so that it can sound-wise go into some really interesting places beyond just Minikorg. Isn't that great?
You never get that out of a stock Minikorg, but that's awesome.
I know they've got some really interesting. I was like, okay, they had some fun with. I mean,
it's polyphonic, right?
And it's polyphonic too. They also have this cool interface that can go between 3D and 2D. So here's, I'm showing on the screen to the people in the live stream, the 2D look, and then you switch to 3D and you've got the pedals for, and then you also have an effect page so you can see the actual effects. They've got distortion, EQ, chorus, flanger, ensemble, phaser, delay, and then reverb. So you've got these 6 effects plus this, the Minikorg itself. So the places it can go are really, really cool.
Wow.
Very cool.
Sounds pretty cool.
So that was kind of before the time of factory presets because it didn't have presets. I don't know what, Jack, do you know what year that came out?
I believe it was early 70s. I don't know. Andrew, was it 1974 possibly?
I think it was 73 or 74. The Cars' first album, I think, came out in 76. So
it was for that, right?
Somewhere in like 74, I think is around that time.
Right.
77 is around when I first learned about this guy, the Maxi Korg. So that sounds about right. And something's telling me that there was a preset version of the Minikorg
that they've had, that Korg released, that has some presets.
Yeah. So, something in the back of my mind is telling me that there was a version of that. I don't know how. Oh, you know what? I'll be right back. I think I know where I can
okay.
verify or deny this. One second.
Okay.
Well, the Minikorg did come out in 1972.
Right.
Okay.
There you go.
Which is, you know, that's pretty early in the synthesizer timeline for affordable synths, and I think it was one of the things that helped put Korg on the map because it was really good sounding. It was affordable.
Yeah.
And, you know, affordable, breaking price barriers and price points compared to all the other synths that were around then. And so that really made it very popular and really, I think, contributed to Korg getting a lot of attention worldwide and the development of synths.
Hey, we have a question from Tim Dale. And this is a good one. This is a chance to clear a little history. I don't even, Jack, you'd be the one to know.
Tim, what is your favorite color? Red, blue, green?
So who came up with the name O1W and what was your reaction to it?
Japan, you know, one of the most difficult things, one of the most boring things is trying to go to those meetings and come up with a name that everyone agrees with.
Yeah.
And, you know, our native language is English. Doing it in Japanese is even more difficult. And there's also copyright issues. There's also, what is this in a particular country, a language, a certain name, you know, may have different meanings. And
Right.
it was becoming incredibly difficult to come up with names that the world markets could agree upon. And I think for that reason, Korg said, you know what, letters and numbers really make a lot of sense. Because nobody can argue with a letter and number. There
Or
was some
interpret it.
rumors that if you take O1W and, you know, turn it upside down, it's the
M10.
you know, M10 or something like
Right.
that. But those were just rumors. And so that's why Korg relied upon letters and numbers, because it was just convenient, and it made the process of naming a synth quicker and easier and more agreeable for everyone.
Right. Good. Awesome. Thank you. Let me show everybody the prophecy for a second. So I've made a collection inside of Unify, as you can see, a set. So I can just say prophecy, call it up, and here it is. In software version. If you're not familiar with it, it's 2 oscillators, and then did they call it MOS? I know for the Z1 it became MOS, but did they call it MOS for the
I
multi-oscillator?
don't think it was called MOS at that time. No, pretty sure not.
Yeah, so they came up with a name later for the Z1 because it can switch between different types of models that would give different character. This is the brass, reed. And this is actually pretty early on in our DSP synthesis technology time. Since then, the Z1 came out. There's now the guitar string model inside of Oasis and Kronos 2 and Nautilus. That's incredible because it's like this on steroids, because you could have 6 different places on the keyboard where you had different values for the filters and for the different parameters in the physical model itself to represent 6 different strings. Or 6 different weird alien creatures. I use it for all sorts of weird things for some of the patches. But this was one of the first ones to do that, I believe. So, wasn't it? Was this the first physical model synth from Korg, right?
Actually, while the Oasis was being developed, engineers at Korg R&D and at Korg Inc. were working on modeling algorithms, and MOS stands for Multi-Oscillator Synthesis System, which actually was part of the Z1 and also the Minilog, but they were also options which went into the Trinity and into the Triton series. So it was expanding the possibilities
and the
of
M3,
adding different types of synthesis with those modeling engines. When the Z1 came out, some different modeling algorithms were added. And again, when STR1 came out for the Oasis, again, it was refined and developed even further. You know, Andy Leary really gets a lot of credit for doing some incredible work on that. Wouldn't you agree there, Mr. Peter Pirate?
Oh, yes, indeed. Yeah.
So you have your prophecy behind you. Can you share a little bit about what it was like when you first sat down and started working with it? What was your first thoughts?
Sure. Let me take 2 steps back.
2 steps back.
I could swear I saw on the internets where everything you see is believable.
Right. All true.
Some sort of a version of the Minikorg that had
you were still looking for that.
But I believe I'm mistaken. I'm looking at the Bible. This was a wonderful gift sent to all the Korg programmers by Korg Japan a couple of years ago, and it chronicles, I mean, obviously in Japanese, but it chronicles every product they ever made. I think I might be mistaking the preset version of what I'm imagining to be a preset version of the Minikorg with this.
What's
that?
I
think it's the PE1000, but I think it might have used the Minikorg like synth guts.
Right.
Okay. So anyway,
PE, maybe programmable. Programmable electronic.
Yeah. And then it had from the pictures, not the Japanese, but from the pictures, I can tell it had preset buttons. Okay.
Right.
As far as the physical modeling on the Oasis, they really
Well, starting with Prophecy. What was
Right,
it like
but-
when you first sat down the first time?
Oh well, I gotta say I was I was disappointed. I said this, I was disappointed because in my first trip to Japan, which was to consult on the design of the M1, they brought me into a room,
Right.
a programming room, and there was this plank of wood with a circuit board nailed to it and like a disembodied like keyboard with a ribbon cable connected to the circuit board.
Total prototype.
Total proto. And I thought maybe I was walking into a similar situation. So on the Prophecy trip, you know, this is basically what they had. And I was like, you know.
Couldn't talk about
Peter,
controllers.
you didn't get involved when it was still just software on a computer prior to when they actually had the hardware?
No.
Okay, because that's when I had gotten involved. Jack had sent me a computer and said, we've got this new software synth. And it was a computer with some board in it. And
The Oasis PCI board?
I don't think it was the Oasis PCI board. It was just for the Prophecy. It was a monophonic.
Way before Oasis.
And that was the first, and it was like, whoa, this is really different.
Okay. Oh, very, very interesting. I didn't realize that they had prototyped it like that.
Yeah, possibly on this one, I may have gotten involved a little earlier, just in the gestation of the product. As Jack said, always multiple things going on in Korg. So
Yeah.
and I did a lot less than all of you guys in terms of the Korg products. The only ones that I worked on were some WaveStation cards, the Prophecy, and the Z1 were the main ones.
Right.
First thing I did was
cards as well, right? And
say again.
O1W cards as well.
That's right. I did an O1W card. The first thing you hired me for was for the ethnic card for the M3R. That was how we met. And then it was the WaveStation card, an O1W card, the Prophecy, and the Z1. Those were the main products that I got involved in.
The cards were often a lot of fun. Right after the M1, Peter did the Synth 1 card, and right after the M1 came out, one of the first projects Skip worked on was the drum card of the M1, which is like hen's teeth. It's very, very hard to find. You know, I had done the orchestral card, and Peter, Skip, and I showed up at NAMM with our old cards, which we still have and cherish and own. And, you know, the thing about the cards and the expansions, you know, the M1, you know, being immensely popular, you know, arguably one of the best-selling synths of all time, it was a workstation, but the fact that it had storage, and not just for programs, combinations, and sequences, it had a PCM card slot, you know, which was a waveform or PCM expansion, which was real, and digital, you know, programmable effects. That winning combination of integrating things into a workstation helped propel Korg, you know, to a level of success where their workstations, you know, have been standards like the T series or, you know, the O1W, the Trinity, Tritons, Oasis, and Kronos and Nautilus keyboards. It's this wonderful combination of elements that exist in one place and with contributions from many programmers. I think the thing we all cherish the most is working together, critiquing and co-editing each other's work, which is harder to do now, you know, remotely. But I think that's the secret's in the sauce.
It is actually harder to do remotely.
Let me share a screen for a second. Check this out. Let me see if I say share
By the way,
screen.
I don't know about you guys, but I can't see it when you share your screen.
Can you see this? I turned off my camera just because I was doing the live stream and it was showing too.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
So
awesome.
This will give everybody a little taste. Being the photography nut that I am, I love to take pictures when I go places. And so these are pictures. There you go. This is from one of our trips to Japan in 2003. Invoicing meetings, we love to put silly things on the poster, on the walls. Is that the give a meter? Oh, the care meter. We used, this was the G-rated version. Later on, it became the give a meter. But we would sit in this little tiny room, and let's see if I can find, here we are doing some voting and stuff like that. But, you know, I take pictures as we went on. This is when we were working on, I believe, that's Oasis, right?
It's Oasis.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was an Oasis trip, running around. Oh, here we are. So this is the room where we listen to our gold tannoy speakers. And what happens in these trips is we all show up from our respective places. We had Michael Geisel, you see his glasses over here. He's from Germany.
By the way, Michael Geisel got married Friday, so we should all congratulate Michael.
Congratulations.
On his winning, and that's very exciting.
Wow.
And our dear friend from Germany, who we've worked with for many years.
Many years.
Greatest people on the planet. And so, yeah, there's.
So here's the team, and like, I mean, way back in the day, look at how skinny and like no hair is me. So, and here's Jack. Oh, where'd it? Oh, did Lightroom? It crashed. Shock. The photo crashed.
That's actually a blessing in disguise. But,
you don't know what you might be showing.
I think it crashed when you clicked on Jerry's picture. Actually,
that's right. You try to get too close. Anyway, we would be in these rooms for these meetings. Let me see. Let's stop sharing so we go back to this. But we would actually bring our patches from Germany, from Italy, from the UK. Peter and Jack from New York. Andrew, were you in New York?
You're right outside New York.
Jersey and stuff. I'm West Coast. Ben Dowling was West Coast. And we would all sit in this room and we would fight. No, we would first go through a political voting process where we'd play each other's patches and politely check boxes if we liked them, and then go away, and they would tabulate and make a list of the ones that got the most votes. And then we could afterwards go, well, I think this patch should be in because it didn't get enough votes, but this is happening right now in music. And we would be able to that kind of dialogue just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all Excel or Google documents and voting that way. And there's no sitting in the room, probably since Kronos.
Yeah,
or before Kronos, right?
I don't think that the programming has suffered.
No.
As a result, but the
experience,
the experience, and also it's weird because like with the wave state and the mod wave, they have one of the things that was really a crucial vote was which sound is the wake up sound. You know, you turn the unit on for the very first time, and what's gonna be the wake up sound, or sound 00 or sound number 1. And that was always a critical decision. And Drew's prophetic steps made it, you know, into the sound, which.
And you can play it there. Play it on there. There you go.
It sounds this. I tell you, it sounds the same as soon as I turned on the software.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah, you need to have that like wake up signature, like
signature sound.
What's this about? You know.
Right, and with the wave state and the mod wave, the paradigm that goes back to the very first programmable synth that had program memory. That paradigm is sort of out the window because the patch storage is in a database, and it's like on the wave state. If you scroll through the patches, you're going to see them listed alphabetically, which is a programming decision by the developers. Like, okay, how are we going to present these sounds? Well, the default is alphabetically.
Yeah.
So one way to sort of simulate a wake up sound would be to take the sound that is most signature and give it a name that starts with A, but that just wasn't the approach that was taken. Instead, there are set lists, and the set list sort of takes the place of a program order.
Right.
So in that respect, there is still a wake up sound in the mod wave in the wave state, but it's just a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And but yeah.
And these days there's so many different ways to order things. It used to be, it's in the ROM, it's going to come this way.
Yeah.
But now, like you're talking about set lists, and you can have favorites and alphabetical, or you could create your own, so.
Well, it's an unlimited number of patches now. So
paradigms for how you present collections within the instruments. So it's gotten a lot more complex.
And that hits nail on the head. You can have an unlimited number of patches in these latest synthesizers. So, you would far exceed 128 very quickly. You could exceed 256 very quickly as people develop patches. There's a guy, Mark Barnes, who does some really great custom programming for the wave state. He's in the UK, and I think at this point he's come out with volume 9 of his own custom sounds, and he's really, really fast and really good.
Wow.
And so when you get all those sounds plus all the factory sounds with virtually unlimited storage in the thing, the whole idea of having, banks of programs kind of goes out the window.
Wow.
So, but yeah,
in the old days, the DX7, 32 presets, and the Poly 6 and the Prophet, we were like, wow, presets, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But now, it takes something like a Kronos, you could have over 3,400 different sounds. So the whole thing of managing the sounds and accessing them, it's time management. List mode, one of my favorite things. No, it's you've got to have a quick and easy way to reference sounds, think of sounds, and access them. And we're managing more data, whether it's on a dedicated piece of hardware, or if it's we're working with plugins and apps. There's just thousands of sounds there and choices available, which is the good news. And the bad news is sometimes that can slow down the creative process when I just need a simple pad. Oh, that's okay. You've got
300. There's which bank of 300 beds would you like?
I know, right?
Would you like a queen bed?
Well,
would you like a full bed? Would you like a king size?
I still have downstairs somewhere a DX7 cartridge that had A, B, C, D banks. So it had 4 banks of 32.
Yeah.
And that was like the real big, wow, you can get
I actually have one, and with sounds from Peter Schwartz, which is how Peter and I met. The Korg rep Alan Perlman said, hey, this guy really is great with DX7 programming. I'm going, oh, really? I need to meet this guy. And the rest, as they say, is history. But I have a 4-bank DX7 RAM cartridge, and with some of Peter's old presets, and I just had it converted. So I have the SysX for it, which I can load into a Kronos. And I was going to surprise him and just send him a file, but right now the algorithm's out of the bag.
The cat algorithm.
It's amazing you still have that data.
Yeah, there's some people out there who have all the old programs. I think there's a company called Deep Signal Studios who can transfer files from Opcode Vision, and I forget what was the
Galaxy.
Really? And I actually got all my Casio CZ1 and CZ101 sounds. I found the files on my computer, and they were actually able to transfer them. And there's something called Virtual CZ.
Right.
Which can load them. So it's pretty amazing. Now you can go back, and there are people who can extract that data, and you can play it on your computer, and it sounds the same. It's really amazing.
DX is the software plugin that is a free FM synth that I think is the closest to the kind of the raw presence of a DX7. and it can read sysx of DX7 patches. So the entire libraries of online, there's like literally thousands and thousands of DX7 sounds, and it's wonderful.
You know, I've been monitoring some forums, some posts that people have and the reaction to Korg's Legacy collection is wonderful. I think that the things that have people really jazz the fact that the Minikorg is polyphonic with effects, and so is the Prophecy.
So is the
The other
Prophecy.
thing about the Triton plugin is it has all the expansion boards. It doesn't have the Morse expansion board, but that was,
Right.
and it's not just a stock Triton. And
Well, there's both the Triton and then there's the Triton Extreme. And the
Right.
Triton Extreme has all of these cards in it, all of these samples. I was going through
Right.
it
Well,
last
the
night.
Extreme featured the PCM from those expansion boards.
Right.
And actually that was it was taking a basic Triton and taking the card PCM and adding that to it. But the card collection is actually, there's more sounds in PCM than the Triton Extreme collection.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, you guys are doing a pretty amazing job of translating these into software synths that sound great, they sound familiar, but also as when I look at the Prophecy, even with editors, it's incredibly complex but easy to use. So they really did a great job on the interface.
Yes.
And when I look at it, I'm like, this is incredibly deep. 4
Yes.
LFOs, 4 envelopes, wave shaping, 2 filters. I mean, doing that on the LCD was, in and out over here, but to see it all on one screen and be able to program it,
Yes.
I was getting some sounds. I sent John a couple
Yeah, in
of
fact,
sounds.
you did. Here, let me find. You did a 1 hour make the biggest sound I can and came up with this. This is Prophecy, which is a monophonic synth, but in the Korg collection, it's polyphonic. So you. I mean, really nice.
It's a huge sound. So much modulation going on.
Yes.
It just can get massive.
4 LFOs, 4 envelopes, pitch EG, amp EG, 2 different oscillators, unless you get to some of these other models that are the big physical models, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of
the reed and the brass, those
Right.
take up more. But on the analog stuff, you've got the 2 analog oscillators. But what was cool is you had pulse width modulation for other wave shapes, the sawtooth, the triangle.
Yeah.
So you could modulate them just like a pulse width. I mean, things that you're seeing in modern software synths
Yeah.
were done back in 1995 in the Prophecy.
Yeah.
So it was so far ahead. Looking at it now in retrospect,
Yeah.
What they had in there was
It was very
pretty
future.
brilliant.
Yeah, here's some of the physical models. Here's the reeds. That's sounding almost like the accordion.
Bagpipe?
Huh?
Can it play a bagpipe?
I know. Peter, can it play a bagpipe?
Wait a minute, who did the bagpipe?
Who did the bagpipe?
I did almost.
Oh,
Almost. Maybe.
but I think a lot of, part of the Korg thing is, this is why I'm really big into the Borg collective mentality, because we feed off each other, and a lot of sounds are made in a collective way where sometimes for the main piano in one of the Korg synthesizers, we would all be hovering over it saying, no, decay should be 77, not 76. And there would be that contribution from everybody. Oh, the reverb, it's a little bit too wet. I mean, we would
making
do
a record, right? I mean, it's similar to recording a song with
Sure.
a group of people. It's
Yeah. To put this in context, this kind, may sound like nerds nitpicking, but the difference, the discussions that we would have about, for instance, actually there was one time, Jack, I hate to, admit this in front of the whole internet, but there was one time where you really rubbed me the wrong way because you were like, you know, I think on that clavinet sound, the release time should be 62 and not 63. And it was like my favorite sound and I didn't want to touch it. And I was going back and forth between 62 and 63. And I was like, damn, he's right. It could be a little tighter, but I didn't want to let it go. You know, so I eventually changed it, and I think I gave you a hard time about it at the time, and I did change it, and I didn't tell you because I was just all too full of myself. But that little change from 63 to 62 made a different. It's no different than voicing a piano or building a bassoon out of a, you know, coating with a certain kind of varnish because it helps it resonate better.
Right.
So what, and I really wanted to emphasize this point that you made, Skibby, that like, if we're going to sit around and discuss whether decay time should be 72 or 73 or 74, it really makes a difference to the final product. Now, you might say that if the patch went out with a decay time of 76, no one would be any the wiser. And it's true. You know, if you loaded up whatever sound this is you're talking about, and people played it, they probably love it just as much as if the decay was 72. But there is a standard. There is a standard of musicianship. It's not just about being like nitpicking nerds. It's about trying to make something sound as musical as possible. And a lot of that sort of discussion went into, you know, our critiquing of people's patches. If the velocity, like if it took just way too much force to get a sound to speak, you know, if the velocity range was too wide compared to other patches, it became, you know,
problematic.
If you already felt it was sort of unplayable that way. Then the programmer of that sound, you know, if he could be convinced to, because we were all very, you know, also respectful of everybody's work.
Yes.
If he could be convinced to narrow the dynamic range so that the sound was basically more playable, you know, mission accomplished, because the sound itself might have been great, but it was just hard to
And the fact that we all play different, right? We all have a different touch. So when we're creating the sounds collectively, and you've got, you know, really talented people who know the nuances and differentials, and each person plays it, and one person plays it who created it with his touch, then I can play it, and I may play it completely different. So it's really trying to find that balance of what's going to get the sound where it needs to be, but be most playable across a broad spectrum of players.
It was so fun looking back. You wouldn't know before we got together for one of these meetings whose patches were going to be like the solid dark bass, who's going to have the piano patch that we want to start from and go from. It was somebody had one that was, in most cases, clearly shining above the other ones. And we go, okay, I really like that, but it gets a little bit too quiet when I play soft and I need it. So we would work on it together at that point. But it was always fun. I mean, this is back in the days of luxury when we would have like 6 months to do programs and then fly to Japan and pick out the programs, fly back to America, business class, and make the combinations, and then fly back to Japan and now have more meetings to do the combination mode of like the T series or something like that.
You flew business class?
Early.
Wow.
The first flights were business class. I guess
some of us were lower on the totem pole.
It didn't last long. It didn't last long, but the first couple of flights, I had a Kai little portable DAT recorder, and I would listen and play that. And I had a little place in the by the seat to store everything. And it was just,
that's great.
Peter, wasn't that one time you and I took the hot air balloon? Like from Southern Cal, we got on a hot air balloon.
The first trip was business class. The second trip was cargo ship.
Well, yeah, that's what happened. Somebody went, oh, it's too much money. Because, I mean, it's like, you know, thousands of dollars versus. We have a good question. Someone's asking, how did Korg find us? So
I think the answer to that is we found Korg. You know, Korg was, I think we were drawn to Korg because of the incredible instruments that they had been developing and coming out with. And so I think that Korg is the common denominator, which we were drawn to you know, I don't think any of us were sought out. I think it was the other way around.
Well, you found me. You found me. So
Ben Dowling, who was Jack, did you hire Ben?
Yes, and Ben found you. So
and Ben found me.
That was, so we have the brotherhood of finding each other that way, you know, but I still say the common thread is through Korg. You know, we probably wanted to extend our family and incorporate as many talented standout musicians and programmers as possible.
Yeah.
There are lots of great musicians, but not all musicians are great programmers. So finding the criteria of someone with good musical skills and programming abilities was a difficult task.
Yeah.
So I think that's what led us out on the trail to kind of find each other and lead us back to the mothership.
Yes.
I knocked on your door. And that was when the M3R was around. That was the first, through Kim Holland, I think, actually.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe it was through Jerry Kowarski, and you were in Long Island. I was in New Jersey.
No, that was Jerry came much later. So that, you know, it was in the days when Kim, God rest his soul, when Kim Holland was at Korg USA.
Yeah, Kim was my first boss, and then his assistant Larry DeMarco took over, and so Larry was there for a while. And then Jerry, I think after that.
Yeah, Jerry was there not for the Prophecy. He was there for the Z1.
Right.
And I think he headed up that project.
John, were you part of either the Oasis or Kronos development? I was part of both. And I joined right after the M1 came out. I was in Seattle working at a music store selling M1s. I sold 48 M1s in 1 month, which is pretty cool for our little tiny store. And I had a relationship with Ben Dowling, who I invited. He couldn't come today. He was someone that lived in Southern California and was a product specialist. And a product specialist back then was someone that would go to music stores in a certain region. There's a region for the South, there's a region for the East, for the West, and basically do a clinic, show the current products, and just make sure that the people there were not using guitar amplifiers in mono, that the sustain pedal was plugged into the right place so that it would work instead of doing volume up and down on. I mean, there's so many horror stories of walking into a store and how they had things set up. And so Korg would come up to Seattle at the music store that I worked at, Evans Music, Midi City, and he'd be like, I have new sounds for you. And I'd be like, I have new sounds for you, because I made patches for my customers. So I had a card that I made of M1 patches before I joined Korg, which became the drum card. I'd made them and gave them to my customers for a period of time when I was up there selling. And when I went to New York, I think I gave it to Jack and them to play with. And then they sent it to Japan. And I was a product specialist for a little while, but not for very long. And then I went into full-time voicing. And so I was in charge of a lot of the drum samples and doing all the drum kit mapping since the M1 forward. So no one else wanted to work with a drum editor, so I learned it pretty well.
You guys went
T-Series, not the M1.
Well, after the M1.
Those NAMM shows, Skippy, you were the keyboard drummer.
Yes.
With Jack and Jordan.
Yeah.
Right. That was legendary.
Real-time wackadoos. Someday we're gonna try to get together. Yeah, but I'd mapped out the drum kits in a special way so I could play a drum set live on the keyboards, and then I had Jack Hotop and Jordan Rudis, who's now with Dream Theater, as the musicians playing we rewrote these original pieces. We were the real-time wackadoos.
Those were some
Actually, the
amazing
first time
concerts.
we were at NAMM, and Jordan and I were playing through a piece, and Korg had the DDD-1 and DDD-5 drum machines. And Jordan and I were playing, and all of a sudden we turn around and there's Skip. He's playing a DDD-1 drum machine, playing the pads in real time. You know, and Jordan and I looked at each other and we gave each other the head nod. We said, "Oh, this is good. We got to do more of this." And hence the real-time wackadoos were born.
Yeah,
and those are that was collaboration. Either when we were playing and writing and demoing music was great, or programming. It's, as Peter was saying, the collaboration, not unlike the Beatles, what they did together. Not that any of us are eminently that talented, but
That's right, Don.
the collaboration between musicians in a band.
Yeah.
You know, to me, that's often the most exciting thing. There are certainly solo artists and projects that are wonderful.
Yeah.
But I think the things that thrill me the most are collaborative in nature, you know, in music and in programming.
Yeah.
I just wanted to show, just in case there are people watching who aren't familiar with this notion of cards. That's
a foreign concept in 2021.
So actually, I will repeat the action I did a second ago. I'm going to pull this out of the back of the Prophecy.
See how it plugs in the back? It's kind of like a thumb drive.
It's like a thumb drive. So this is actually a Prophecy RAM card.
Yeah.
And it's even got, I mean, this thing is engineered like ridiculously. It's got a little memory protect switch built into it.
Love it.
So that was for the Prophecy, and this was, you know, it's a synth, so it's just sound data. This was a preload card for the Wave Station, you know, same concept, plug it in the back.
Right.
This is one that dates back to the 707, which was a cut down version of DS8.
Oh yeah.
FM synth. And this sort of has the same sort of packaging concept as an old record album or a CD. So you have your card, and then it's got
performance
like
notes,
program notes.
Right.
So this is how data was transferred
back in the day.
Yeah.
Didn't some of the weren't some of them a combination of a PCM card and the RAM card together? You had to have both. One was just the sound, the sound library, and then it had an associated RAM card with the patches on it. I don't remember which instruments had those.
The M1 was like that. There were two slots, one for PCM and one for programs. Oh, there we go.
Yep. Oh, your background's messing up, Jack.
Jack, you're wearing the ring.
I know, it's a magic trick. Invisible cards.
How'd you do that?
They're very hard to find.
Yes. I'm looking through my Lightroom database. I might have somewhere the picture of Peter, Jack, and myself holding up our respective M1 cards. We had a moment in time when we did that.
We did that.
I mean, the M1 really, you got to give credit to you guys. That was just a transformational instrument that really,
that started the whole
really kind of set the standard, and then everything went from there.
Yeah.
I mean, even today, people still use it. It's
Peter should tell the story. When we were doing the T series, we went to a studio called Sound Atelier, and we needed a music box sample. And we went to Harajuku and we bought like a little music box, took it apart, but it had no soundboard. So there was like a vocal booth. And Peter, and so Peter had the music box.
I had the music box, and I was looking for something for it to resonate on, because when you pluck the tine on a disembodied music box mechanism, it just kind of goes.
Right.
So I'm looking for something for it to resonate on, and I figured, well, what about the floor? It was a wooden floor, so I put it on the floor, and sure enough, when you pluck the tine, it rang out, at a decent volume, enough to mic. So we had the mic basically aimed at this thing, basically aimed at the floor to pick up the sound, and of course we needed the full decay, and there was quite a bit of decay once you put the thing on the floor and let it resonate. So this became a matter of, okay, let's do this, the tine on C sharp or whatever. And it was like, I had to inhale and hold my breath the whole time, because I had to be right there on it to be it. So it was like, ding.
Let it ring out.
There there were times where, you know, I couldn't hold it any longer, and we, you know, ruined a million takes because I had to exhale.
I remember you bringing your dad to shoot
expression next time, you know, a little more, you know.
So we'd be getting different takes, and it was like, oh no, the level was too hot, the level was too low. So Peter, we need that note, and Peter would be on the floor with the music box, and he'd go, "I'm ready."
So here you go, 2017.
History.
Yeah, so you know, we expended quite a bit of physical effort to bring these sounds to you then and now.
Yes, it's a passion that you can't really explain, because we don't get paid, like, you know, it's not like this is gonna, I mean, we've got paid and it's enough to pay the bills and stuff, but it's not like, you know, it's a pleasure to do this, and it's a, you know,
well, it's certainly a passion and a love. You got to have that to get down into that granular level. The thing that's interesting is when still, even I think, and Peter will probably talk about this or can speak to it more, and Jack, and probably you, when you're doing a hardware device, it's different than a software plugin where they can just dump millions of sounds in it. And I think that there's a much more cautious approach when you're doing more thoughtful and more judicious culling and curating of the sounds when you're doing it into a hardware device, even if it can be overwritten and you've got plenty of space for additional sounds. I think.
Well, part of it depends on who's doing the
device.
I think
it's just different.
I think it depends also, though, who's doing the voicing. Because when I did my Unify plugin, I used my mentality like from my Korg voicing, and not making duplicates of things that sounds very similar. You know, a lot of these synthesizers, they have a lot of patches that are very similar, and they just aren't fleshed out. And that's just because of inexperience with voicing. But, you know, we're hardened veterans that have been around a while doing this stuff. Someone asked a question about the Wavedrum, and the answer, I was involved with all of the Wavedrum products. So that was a fun part of Korg history that pulled me out of some of the synths that these guys were working on. I was working on the toilet seat.
You know, and that's one that I'm wondering why we've not seen an evolutionary device of that from that lineage. It sort of stopped.
Well, it's tricky. It's expensive, and drummers don't have a lot of money. And, you know, to do something that's truly able to listen to what sticks you're using and stuff like that, I don't know. I hope they keep doing it, but it's definitely, there's a lot more people interested in synthesizers. You know, Shane and I have learned this. Unify is a challenging thing to sell because it's not just a synthesizer. It's a little bit more complicated, and there's more strings attached to what it can do, but it's more satisfying because it lets you play with all of your plugins. But that's a harder sell than just saying I have a synthesizer to sell.
Right.
And the Wavedrum's kind of the same way. Drummers are used to having, I need my toms, I need my snare, my kick. Wavedrum kind of like is this weird. However, there's this guy that's got a video that's, I absolutely love it, of him starting this groove with a Wavedrum. I gotta remember the band. It's Dana something is his name. He plays with a Boston shirt on in this video that's got like 12 million views now, and it's incredible. But he's using the Wavedrum the whole time through it, which is really fun.
You know, I'm coming into it from as a keyboard player, just that different interface. But you're probably right. As a drummer, whole different head and approach. Drummers are a challenging person to sell to.
And there's a certain amount of education with the Wavedrum on how to play it.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you just use a stick and you hit it and it sounds the same every time you hit it, you go, oh, I don't get it, you know? But if you use your hands with it, it's like, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. Then you use aftertouch and pressure and all that kind of stuff. Dana.
There's just a quick aside for the Wavedrum. Anybody wants to hear a great version? I think it's one of the Gateway albums with Jack DeJohnette, Dave Holland, and John Abercrombie. It's either Homecoming or the one after it, where Jack DeJohnette's doing some incredible Wavedrum playing. Right. One of the great drummers of all time, of course. But
so I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is the coolest. It's Tool. And he's using a Wavedrum right there that he's playing. This is something you guys can't quite see here. Let me try to share it.
No, we can't see it, but
And go share screen. There's a Wavedrum.
There's no audio.
Oh, you guys don't have audio?
No.
we can't hear it now, but that doesn't matter.
Oh, well then probably the live stream guys can't hear it either.
Numa.
Let me see here. Anyway, if you want to see something that will open your eyes out, check out the Dana Carey I never can say it right. Numa by Tool. That video is just mind-blowing.
Okay. Are you hearing audio from me?
Yeah.
Okay, because if you want me to, I can string.
Oh,
this.
I just want to show so people can go find it. If they can see, the name, and then they can search on YouTube and play it with their speakers, it'd probably be better anyhow. But
Yeah.
it's great multimeter. He plays he's an absolute beast player. I mean, I didn't know who he was, and he's been around for a long time and well worth it. It's up to 16 million views now. Just crazy. So,
Jeez.
but Wavedrum is in there quite a bit for some really cool things that he does. So, yay, Wavedrum. And I agree. We should keep developing on that technology a lot because there's a lot still to explore. Well, do you guys each want to share a favorite voicing memory from all the different projects you've done?
Yeah.
Andrew.
I'll go because I have the least. So there's two.
I want to clarify though,
Prophecy
Andrew,
and
you have worked maybe on as many, if not more, synthesizers and effect processors. His history in the industry, guys, you're a giant, dude. I mean, I appreciate you
thanks.
being humble, but at the same time, you guys, he's probably worked on more synthesizers and audio effect processors than I have. Just
I think at last time I counted, which was a few months ago, it was 120 products.
Yeah.
Synths, effects, cards.
Yeah.
Some software.
Yeah,
but-
Andrew Schlesinger is a serious brother. So
Thanks. I think the Z1 probably, the Prophecy was great.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I went to Japan with you guys, and
yeah,
incredible. But the Z1 was really, I think, special. It took it to another level.
Yeah.
Especially when we were working with Egoshi-san.
Yes.
And we didn't know he was ill.
Yes.
And he was just there, and we were making changes to the software and suggesting things.
Yeah.
And I think I'm sure everybody's going to say, "Well, we did the Korg did the Prophecy. Is there going to be a Z1 software version?" And certainly hoping that in the future there will be. But for me, that was it. The Z1 was probably the pinnacle.
That
being polyphonic and
Yeah.
just incredible control.
Yeah. I got to work on
That's
that. That was a fun synth.
Yeah.
I love the knobs that we've done this in Unify where every parameter can be any direction and curvatures and so forth, and minimum and maximum ranges. So you can really tweak one knob to do exactly what you want it to do, and not, so often with these things you assign one knob and there's just one depth, but it's the same for everything you assign to it. So you can't really
can't scale it right.
Can't scale it to where the pitch goes where you want, but the filter stops right here. And I mean, the Z1 is just awesome for that.
It was also a beautifully designed instrument. I mean, it was elegant.
Yeah.
It was really, really great. And hanging out in Japan with you guys.
Yeah.
And John Bowen.
Yeah.
And Jerry. So I'll stop there, and then you guys can talk about your others.
Peter, you've got many. We won't. I've heard some good stories over the years. You've had some fun adventures in Japan. I just remember you bringing your DAT machine and recording the subway trains and stuff.
That's right. Yeah, that was a side benefit of going to Japan, was going to Akihabara, which was the electronics district, and buying the first portable DAT machine, which came with a great stereo mic. And so I was around, like recording everything.
Yeah, kid in the candy store. You'd come in like, I got this great train going by last night.
I was definitely more of a sound nerd back then. There are things Thunder that I recorded on that thing that I've used on any number of different kind of like soundtrack kind of things. It just picked up a great stereo field. I have far too many programming stories.
We need a whole evening dinner.
It would take a dinner. I
You know what?
guess-
They did this with Rush, where they had a dinner and they sat around and had dinner, and it's really beautifully filmed. We got to do that. We got to do that. To get these stories, they have to be documented and put out there. So that's why I'm so thrilled you're here, because just sharing this is, I mean, it's so valuable to hear these experiences to everybody. There's a lot of people watching right now that are like, gosh, it's so cool to see some of the inner work. You know, you see this big Korg name on something, but you don't realize there's people underneath that and you guys got to realize it's from the software engineers, the people that do the effects and do the interface. There's people that do all of that. And when I went, I was closely related with Japan and Yamaha because my mom owned music stores and sold Yamaha synthesizers and stuff. But what impressed me with Korg is Korg was kind of like the rebel version of Yamaha, because Shoge had every t-shirt to every Rolling Stone concert that had ever come through Japan. And we didn't have to do exercises 3 times a day, you know? And I mean, it was much more the outcast guys. They got to go to Korg and do cool things. And so,
yeah. And of course, the leader of the pack, the Grand Poobah, is at the bottom of your screen, which is Jack, who was sort of the conductor and director for a whole lot of this, right? For a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And enforced the high standards of voicing that I think we all learned from. Like when I came on board to do work, I was of programming story. So like I said before, they flew me to Japan to consult on the design of the M1, and that was like a huge honor, privilege, you know. But I had more synthesizer architecture chops than I had programming chops at the time. So I made some pretty fundamental changes to the way that the envelopes were routed to the filter in the M1, which I thought was a vast improvement over the way that they had been doing it in the past, and that other companies have done it. And well, it was a suggestion. They took my suggestions on board, and you know, so that was one of my contributions to the design. But in terms of programming, at that point, I don't think I had the kind of experience that Jack had. And I learned a lot from him about doing things the right way, the professional way, listening critically. Again, the discussion of the release time, 62 or 63, what's it going to be?
Right.
You know, understanding why that's important. And those are a lot of the things that I learned from Jack, along with, and I'm sure we've all learned the QC, the quality control nature of what aspect of what we have to do. I learned a lot of this from Jack. If you have, let's just say, a bass sound and you switch to a harmonica sound, and the harmonica is way too low in volume, well, you have to decide, and then you go to an electric piano sound and it's like super velocity sensitive. You have to go jockey between those 3 sounds and sort of level them all out, so that as somebody scrolls through patches, they don't get an ear blast, or they don't have to turn up the volume.
Right.
And that's, you know, and just making sure that all the controllers do something,
but still musical.
These are all things that you know, filtered. I learned from Jack and
Jack, you started it, brother. Jack,
the forest, the trees, the leaves, right? It's at all those levels. You have to look at the holistic, and then down to the really small granular stuff.
And by the way, if you guys haven't seen it, and it matches really nicely with the background for Jack, you guys got to see Fantastic Fungi on Netflix.
Yes, I saw it.
Unbelievable.
Amazing.
The photography, the time lapses of all these different plants and fungus and mushrooms doing their thing, just to the fact that the whole forest is a neural network. Amazing. It's wonderful film. So you guys got to all see it. It will change your perspective on life. And, you know, a lot of it is, you know, we all had our own personalities, but there is some definitely the give it crap that Jack taught all of us, I think, right?
Yeah. That's a profession. That's professionalism. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the level of being a pro and saying,
that's very kind of all of you guys to say that. In all honesty, I think that I've learned from each one of you. I've learned different lessons that, you know, a book, a paragraph, chapters that I could say about each one of you. I think one thing we have in common is we want to continue to learn from each other and from the things that are around us and not be content to rest on our laurels, you know.
Right.
And, you know, I have an endearing friendship with each one of you. And, you know, for all those kind words, I have to say I've learned so much from each one of you. But I do have one really funny M1 story. When we worked, and Korg their office was in Western Tokyo in Shimotokaido, small little building.
This isn't the Ruby Slipper story, is it?
No, not the Ruby Slippers. But yeah, I can't tell that one because that's censored, but I thought of telling that one. It's right on the tip of my knob. And just for anyone's curiosity, toilets in Japan are called Toto.
Toto.
But I'm not going there right now. The story I want to tell. During the week, all the employees would work there Monday to Friday, occasionally a Saturday, but we were the programmers that were visiting, and we were crazy enough. We said, no, we're going to work 7 days a week. We need access to the building. And they had this big chain kind of, you know, fence that came down, and we knew how to sneak underneath it to get into the building to gain access to the studio to do some programming. So on one of the 8 trips I made over for the M1, it was in the winter. I was with Ben Dowling, and it was a Sunday. And he said, hey, man, I said, yeah, let's do some programming. And we walked over to the office. No one's there in the snow. And we lifted up the fence, you know, we walked up the stairs, and we went into the studio to do some work. Well, what we didn't realize was someone had set the alarm. So Ben and I are working, and then all of a sudden we hear some guys running up the stairs, and 2 Japanese police officers open the door and start talking to us like loud in Japanese. And Ben and I look at each other and we go, we don't understand what you're saying. And then they just kept talking. So they couldn't speak English and we couldn't speak Japanese. So Ben and I were like pointing at keyboards going like this. And then they really had a really confused look like, why are they going like this? You know, and finally they figured out, oh, this is, you know, we kept trying to communicate small words, small phrases. And eventually it became so funny that all 4 of us, the 2 cops and Ben and I, we just burst out laughing because no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't figure out what the heck anyone was saying. And they just figured, these guys are not criminals. It's like, you know, we're busting in on Laurel and Hardy or like Heckle and Jekyll, you know. And so eventually, you know, the thumbs up, everybody, the police, Ben and I, we all did a thumbs up. You know, we said, hey, check it out, sounds. And they go, no, 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 you know. And we understood no, 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 you know, that was said a lot.
That's funny.
But so that was the one time Ben and I set off the alarm at Korg Inc., summoned the police who we couldn't communicate with, and it was pretty funny. The other one is the Silver String Submarine Band with the engineer in the booth and the tubes exploding and his hat going off. Well, that was the little breadboard prototype of the M1. I'd have headphones and I'd be playing, and all of a sudden the reverb would explode and I would scream at the top of my lungs. And now I know how the engineer from the Little Rascals with the Silver String, with the International Silver String Submarine Band felt.
Wow.
That's right. That's right.
My God.
Well, you still have the story, Jack, also about just
Little Rascals.
It would explode. That happened on, I think that happened a lot on the Oasis, during Oasis development too. There were certain reverb algorithms that, you know, if you just sent in the right signal or like adjusted the parameter just like a little bit too far, it would literally like explode and go, you know.
Yeah. We've all done.
We've all had that. That's happened to all of us, I'm sure, numerous times, where the headphones just go flying off your head.
Well, plus, Jack, wasn't it the night before NAMM for the introduction of the M1 that the memory went out?
I lost. Yeah, sometimes a card would just say, "I'm going to data heaven."
Data heaven.
It was good. It was a good hang for a while.
But you had to program all night, right?
Data heaven.
You had to program all night to get patches to show.
Wow.
At the show, right?
You know, we do whatever it takes. And, you know, with the exploding reverbs and headphones, well, these blockbuster bombs don't go off unless you hit them
just right.
I think the data heaven, I think people need to know what that means.
Yes.
When you've worked your ass off, you know, and you've got a bank of sounds, and all of a sudden you turn the machine off, or you go get a cup of coffee, and you come back, you turn the machine on, and they're not there.
They're not there.
And you hadn't backed them up, and you're just like, can I get them back? I can't get them back. Can I wish them back? They're not coming back. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible feeling.
And then like scramble like crazy to try to get something close to the concept that you had.
Yeah.
And it's never the same and never as good as the original was, right?
You just gotta like say.
Hey, I have a couple other pictures I can share. So here I'm gonna share screen. I think this whole live stream is just gonna be this. You know, we'll have to show the synthesizers and stuff next week because we're taking up all of our time. So this is during the Oasis. There's Jack looking at his sheet. He's voting away on the patches. You can see how we would mark and make comments on each of the patches that people brought. That's how it was. We would analyze and, you know.
Oh,
that's what it
wow. That was the
Perestroika.
The Perestroika prototype of the Oasis with the the white paper.
White paper for the labels of what the knobs and buttons did, because otherwise you wouldn't know, because they didn't have printing on it and stuff like that. So
remember the prototype of the Prophecy that had the what they call wheel 3,
the log.
We lovingly the mod log. Okay?
Yes,
right.
We're going through about 100 different names, many of them not safe for work.
Oh no, not NSFW, absolutely not. I actually have a picture of the whiteboard you were talking. You're talking about stuff on the whiteboard. No, it's but I have it, and it's like
that log up there.
What were we thinking?
Very special.
The original mod log had. Now this is some nerdy stuff, okay? It had like ridges. It was like the mod wheel, which has it's scored,
textured.
And the original mod log had the same kind of texturing, which we had a vote about that. So it wasn't, it was a very democratic process. The engineers, asked us all whether we thought the wheel should have the ridges or not. And I really thought that it should. I was pretty loud about it, I think. Ultimately, the decision was to make it, a smooth, a smooth thing.
So you can have sweaty fingers and slide on it, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So, even stuff like the MIDI implementation. Another thing that I felt very strongly about. Okay, so real quick, I didn't know that this plugin suite was coming out.
Right.
Up until like 2 days ago, but about 5 or 6 days ago, I was working on a track and I was thinking, you know what, I want a special sound for whatever, and I didn't want to go fishing around for a plugin. I've got synths laying around here. I thought, okay, well, why don't I see what the Prophecy has to offer? And I found like the perfect sound, which happens to be one of my favorite sounds that I made in the thing. So I finally got a use for it. Like,
what patch is it?
Sunrise Sync.
Sunrise Sync. let's play it
I
so
know that
everybody
one.
can hear it. It's a synth patch, right? So we go say all and sunrise. Sunrise sync lead.
Yeah. It really comes to life when you play the mod log and stuff.
Let's see here. Go to the synth. Oh, we got the mod. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and since you're talking about the, this was ostensibly about the 3 new synths.
Yeah.
There's an amazing amount of stuff that's in that Prophecy plugin. That's, if you've got a good controller and you can map some of those things to a controller, you can go nuts.
Right.
I mean,
it's all about real-time control of those parameters.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and just the way all the patches are structured, like most of them, if I'm not mistaken, when we were programming these things, we were able to choose which parameters were accessible on
those knobs.
5 knobs.
Yeah, per patch.
Per patch. So there was a ton of flexibility in the architecture. I mean, like you said before, it was really quite ahead of its time. But at the same time, I think it was more ahead of its time because to me, there's never enough synth parameters. So when you have 4 envelope generators, I'm like, okay, that's great.
Right.
Can we have more?
Right.
But 4 is more than 2, twice as many actually.
Right.
So you get a lot of flexibility with that. But I thought it was ahead of its time because of all the real-time control and the fact that you could assign what you wanted to the knobs and just going beyond the mod wheel. So you've got the mod log in the up direction, you've got it in the down direction, you've got the ribbon on it.
Right.
And then am I recollecting this correctly that the ribbon was pressure sensitive?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was.
I think it was too.
Or was it just position? I don't remember whether it was pressure and position.
I believe it was just positionally sensitive. I don't believe it was pressure sensitive.
Okay.
I think a common theme, about the evolution, the development of these instruments, and one involved the letter I. One is to imagine. One is for imagination, to imagine something. The second I would be to innovate, to do something that's innovate. And the most important is to inspiration. So imagining, innovation, and inspiration, the keys, I think those are the secrets to success for the things that make something stand out to us and to other artists and musicians in the world who are composing, creating, and playing music. I think those are the 3 most important words, and I think Korg deserves a vote of credit for having that as a baseline or guideline to work from, and to keep it all going. You know what? I think I know I've got to do some things, and I'm thinking about wrapping this up. Skip, you're going to have a link for this online. Yes. It'll be on YouTube, and you'll post the link so we can share this wonderful.
One last question for each of you to answer. That's a good question from Woody's Piano Shack, which is a really cool YouTube channel. He does live playing of synthesizers just so people can hear the patches. He's a wonderful.
Oh, that's cool.
Really cool website. Really cool guy. He's like, were you using software editors or just synth control, and which do you prefer?
I think some of the answer to that.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in.
There it is. Some of the answers to those questions are actually under NDA.
But I mean, if you just on a personal thing, because some of these instruments have editors and some of them we just program from the front panel. Do you have a personal? Do you like?
I think it
working
really
with computer
depends on the instrument. To me, it depends on the instrument. If I wanted to play a Prophet 5, where you've got a limited set of controls, I'd want the tactile things that have a lot of destinations, a lot of modulations,
Yeah.
lots of capabilities. An editor makes things
Easier.
much easier. And actually, the Prophecy is a pretty good example. Seeing it in this version, even though we had an original editor, and there was an editor somebody made, SoundCloud maybe, I don't know who it was, but it really depends on the instrument. I think it depends on how many parameters there are that you might want to utilize. Some are just better tweaking. You know, generally you can do a good amount with a controller, no matter what, you know, the physical. But if you really had many levels down, an editor really helps.
Yeah, I think Peter and I will. We've worked and collaborated on a lot of things. There are times where I've used an editor and the hardware at the same time. Yeah. So wouldn't you agree that, Peter, sometimes both are convenient depending on what you're actually trying to accomplish and do, whatever the quickest way is. And sometimes it's working with an editor and sometimes it's working directly with hardware and a combination of both.
Yeah. The times that we did have prototypes and an editor at the same time, it was far more convenient to, for example, you know, drag a graphic of an envelope, the filter envelope, and drag it onto the place and drop it onto the amp envelope, just to make quick work of getting the same basic settings before making a lot of tweaks. So for those kind of operations, and also having utilities like to compare program A and B, there was one editor that we worked on, maybe a couple, where you could drag and drop programs onto this comparison thing and it would spit out all the differences. And it's sort of like a sanity check thing. You're playing two sounds, they're almost the same, but something about one of them grabs you a little bit more. And there's something about, let's say, the low end of the other one that just seems a little beefier. And it's hard to tell, especially towards the tail end of a long programming spree. You know, am I just getting tired? You know, am I just been involved in this for too long? Am I losing my
really close?
So you can take these two programs, drag and drop, it spits out the difference. And there you can see your readout in parameters speak. Okay, the reason that the low end on that one seemed a little beefier was because the keyboard tracking was sloping up in that one as you go down the keyboard, and not in the original one. And so it helped to give perspective on, you know, yes, my ears still work. I can believe what I'm hearing and playing. And then maybe because I like the first one better, I'll just apply that keyboard tracking to the other one and sort of combine the best of both. And you don't get that when you have a synthesizer that's got like a gazillion parameters. You don't get that sort of eight comparison without an editor. So there are advantages to both.
I've always preferred working on the actual physical instrument if I can. I feel like I can find the personality of it more than if it's software, you know, and you're just fishing around. But for some of the newer synthesizers that are getting more complicated, you know, some of the new ones like the Kronos and stuff, the interface is kind of like a computer interface in and of itself. So you kind of have that amount of feedback. So it's interesting. We all, you know, something about having the real thing in front of you that you're interacting with, right?
You're right. It's an instrument, right? You want to play it.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to tweak it.
Yeah. And that's been, you know, my goal's always been, and your guys too, let's make musical expressive instruments that have an electronic pulse, you know?
Right.
That's why we call it voicing. When somebody makes an acoustic instrument, like a piano or a violin, they will shave wood or select wood or, you know, move physical mechanisms to different places like the bridge to give it a certain voice. And we approach electronic sounds with the same sort of well, that's our approach to electronic
craftsmanship. There's craftsmanship.
It's not just programming, it is actually like voicing. And the idea is always to make musical instruments, you know, whether they sound real or not. Everybody wants them to be expressive. And I'll say just one other thing real quick. All of us programmers want everybody to use the sounds we've made. There are maybe some of you are of this contingent, maybe some of you are not. But the idea that you should eschew the stock programs, well, they're not just there as demos. We craft them in the hopes that you will use them. At the same time, on this, like running in a parallel plane, we also want you to modify the crap out of it.
Right.
I want you to, if you're like,
agreed.
Okay, this sound is pretty good, but what if I fill in the blank?
Yeah.
Please mess with the sound, move the controls, dig in, mess with the filter or change the envelopes. We want that too. But every patch is, we hope, a starting point for inspiration.
Totally. That's where it comes from.
Agreed.
Well, guys, thank you. This was the last minute. I sent a text to Jack last night saying, Jack, I've got the V3 collection. I want to thank Korg Japan. On a Saturday, they got me the right codes to get everything installed so I can show you guys. So thank you to them. That started where I could go, Jack, I've got this. Do you want to just come on? We could talk for a little bit. And then Jack's like, sure, contact Andrew and Peter too. And thank you for, I mean, this would really brought this to be really, we'll do this again because there's so much to talk about. I want to get McKelly and Steve McNally and Michael Geisel and Tony Diaz. There's a lot of people you guys got to know. In closing, check this out. Jack, do you have to go right now? Because I just, one more thing to share. Just this, check this out. This is from the last voicing meetings that we did for the Oasis. And after this, we decided to go upstairs. This is the building that Korg is not at now. This is after this, they moved to a different building. So this is our chance to take pictures with the Korg sign at the top of the Korg building that had been there for like 40 years or something like that. And so we were able to celebrate. And then after this, the building's been changed and now it's like a tires thing or I don't know what it is, but good memories. There's so many memories. I have literally thousands of photos of our trips. So we have to go through and pick all these out and go through the meetings and, you know, I mean, classic. All sorts of, yeah.
Izumi.
In my Izumi. And Jerry Kowarski and Skinny Me. And there was a typhoon going by. So I took pictures of the clouds as it was flying by. I'd go out at night and take pictures of the buildings and the cities and sunsets and stuff like that. So great memories. Great experiences.
And Korg, when they were located, it was sort of like, it reminded me of Queens, a suburb of the city. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't in this like, you know, bougie area. It was like,
no. When you went out to go have dinner, you were walking down the streets to Five Corners Udon. And Jack, I have some good pictures of you with very smiley face and sweaty udon soup experiences, man, because
sweaty udon soup experiences. I love it.
Good memories. Well, thank you again for joining.
Thanks,
we'll do this again.
Thank you.
Hands together, head bow to all of you. You guys are my brothers. Love you all. See you soon, okay?
Yep. Speak soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Wow. Well, that was fun. And again, this was super short impromptu to happen. I just said, hey, would you guys be interested in getting together? And it happened. So that was really fun. This is the Korg collection. It's now 10 synthesizers. I right here from the ARP Odyssey all the way to the Wave Station. The interfaces for the plugins have been great. They did a really great job adding to the interfaces, and it's wonderful stuff. I also want to point out there's a new plugin that I wanted to show. We'll go a little bit over today, which is fine. Let me show you something really cool. So let's go to I don't even know what to show you on because this is so cool. There's a new effect called Rift. It's a distortion, but it has a ton of really cool modulation and it's easy to use, and that's critical. So let's do this. Let's call up from the factory patches. some sort of like a cool lead, like let's just say a sine. When you play with distortion, you want to get something like this. It's a company called Minimal. I want to point out where they are. Also, I want to point out where you can go to the Korg, if you want to get the Korg stuff. So see Korg, version 3. If you go to Korg.com, it should show up on the front page. Let's see here. Yeah, Korg.com will take you to where you can get information and details on it, but there's now 10 synthesizers in this collection, and it's wonderful. Great, great collection. And then Minimal Audio. Check this out. Minimal Audio. This new synth this new audio effect I'm gonna show you is from them. This is called Rift, which is a cool name. Let's see, learn more. It's a new type of distortion, and it's on a very affordable price for what it is. It's more than just the $19, a certain type of distortion, and you're stuck with it. This is one where you have 2 pages. You have this page, which is more like a global overall. You have this way, but you also have this way, where now you can see that, oh, there's multiple modulation sources, and you can see how they're connected to the different filters, to the wave. Well, actually, we'll talk about distortion in a second. It's really cool. Really, really cool stuff. Let's do this. Let's start with something brighter. So I'm going to go to a unison. So let's go just down here to the 8-voice unison. And let's go default so you can see what we can do here. Check this out. They have all these different types of distortion, wave shape, noise, sample rate, and they're done on the polarity of the actual sound waveform. So you can modulate the positive and the negative of the waveform could be a whole, and you can blend between them. And if I wanted, I could go to the LFO, to the shape over here, let's say square, and then drag this to blend, and just like this, let's have it also do a filter. So let's turn on the filter by turning on the power. And if I drag this over here and then bring this up, and then if you bring it randomized, it's now a sample and hold. Killer sounding. Remember, it's doing this too. You have a filter mix. You've got a built-in what they call feedback, and it can get into crazy stuff because it can be set to tune. So it's actually tracking across the keyboard. This is a plugin that in Unify, if you notice, it's listening to MIDI. It has a little MIDI that you can actually mute if you don't want it to listen to MIDI. But the MIDI shows up on our effects in Unify as a little on and off. You can turn on and off. And it can do some really cool. Let's go just delay. Bring up the, let's see. We got here's a tune. Or you could just say timed, and you could say just normal. And now it's normal delays. You can turn on distortion in the feedback. Killer stuff. Let me just show you some of the patches. As you can see, there's all sorts of patches, massive 808s. Like, probably should put this on a sine wave. There's expansive pad. Like, if we were to make this a pad with a slow attack and a long release. You can get into all sorts of really cool colored distortion ambiances, retro and so forth. It's a little CPU heavy at times. I've been talking to them. They're working on optimizing that. It just came out. But if you need something that's a multi-effect that's got a cool take on this whole positive and negative of the waveform being able to be modulated separately, it's getting not quite WaveRaiser territory, because WaveRaiser does it even more on a granular level. But you've got all sorts of really cool filters. And again, you've got follow, LFO, and then 2 programmable curves that could do sidechain or so forth. That all you do is you just drag this over to the parameter that you want, and now you're hooked up to it. So it's operating as double click. It's pretty cool, So these guys, they're kind of new. This is their first effect. There is a free version, and if you go to Plugin Boutique, you can get the free version for free instead of $49. Plugin Boutique. I think there's a thing on plugin. There's a promo code. Let me see if I can find it for you. I gotta go over here. It's getting hot in this room. It's so hot here in Portland. Rift Light. Bedroom Producers had getting. Let's see here. Here's the link to the Bedroom Producers post on this, which will take you to getting it for free if you want to follow along. Let me put this into the chat. Is there any randomized function for presets? That's a biggie for some of you. Let me see. You have to be careful with certain things with randomized, because you don't want it to randomize. Some things would get rather dangerous when randomized. I'm not sure. Again, this is version 1.0.1. So I think there was somewhere I had a button I was pushing and it was changing some parameters, but I'm not sure if it was this. Sorry. Some of these actually do have some parameters. Does this hover over? You've got different shapes to pull from a preset list if you want. Yeah, here. This will do random curves just by clicking here. So there are some random things available if that's your jam, but it's not for the whole effect, I don't think. But I was really impressed with this, and I wanted to share it with you guys to make sure that you... Again, it's taking this and doing all this to it. We could go into some of the chop and stutters, and they... It's tempo syncable. The other place this is fun, of course, is drums. So I'm working on all these cool drum grooves for the guitar library. We could call up something like this. Go over here, go to minimal. I can show you the light version too in a minute, but so it's doing really fun things. Percussion, it's perfect for. To have all of this modulation of all this possible things to play with. I mean, there's all sorts of fun places to go with it. Just adding some ear candy things is really, really fun. Now, I will say the Rift Lite isn't anywhere near as cool because it has some nice things to it, but it's much more simplified just to give you access to the filter. So there's no LFOs, none of the cool fun things to play with, but you have the filter, this filter light. And it does have some morphing. So that takes it through multiple shapes and so forth. This is all built into Rift, but the thing is with Rift, you also have the distortion and all that, plus the delay and all of the modulation. And the modulation is where it gets really interesting to have two curves, LFO and so forth. Anyway, so we're over time. I'm going to wrap it up about here. There's more to show you guys. We're working on the guitar preset library. It's coming out really cool. This will be out in the second half of August. I'm taking a little vacation time, not this coming week, but the next week. And Shane's taking vacation time starting next week to have a little recharge, get out, get our cells charged for, you know, it's been a nice, hot, long summer, so we need to get out and about. But it's coming out really, really cool. I don't want to get into it too much right now. We'll dedicate another show to that. I really want this just to be about all the fun stuff we did with Korg, which I could show you a little bit more about. We got 10 minutes left. So the synth list that comes with the whole, I wish I could get the interfaces to be bigger. That's the one thing is I don't think they have, with people with 4K monitors and stuff, I can hear you howling already. What's fun of the Mono Poly is it's a 4 oscillator synth, so that there's an awful lot of the bass stuff is just awesome. The filter's just, oh my gosh, you know. Take that and then put Rift on it. That'd be a lot of fun. The new ones that were added to the collection is the Minikorg, which we talked about a little bit in the show. They have the Minikorg, and then they added 6 audio effects as effect pedals. So you can get all sorts of sounds from this that you could not get from a mono Korg 7. Stuff's great. Lots of patches, of course, so you can go through the list and see all the stuff available and clap. Great retro vibe, great snare. Cool stuff like keyboards. It's all there. The Prophecy is probably the one that's the most interesting because it was the first dives into physical modeling. And what's cool with this is even though the Prophecy was mono, There's a way to make it polyphonic. I haven't studied this enough to know where that is. But it does the famous patches. If you ever had a prophecy, this was the first patch that it came with, so sounds great. And it's tempo sync, so if we go over here and let's let San Juan just kind of. Yeah. How do you make a polyphonic? I gotta see. Effects. Program settings. Here we go. Mono or poly. We love software. So you can take any patch that used to be mono, go over here to the effects page, click mode to make it poly, and now you're playing a prophecy as if it was a Z1. So that's pretty cool. Again, it's a physical model, so give you some cool place to start being educated on some of the parameters for a DSP model version of a synthesizer. This is similar to what you'll find inside of Logic with Structure and some other synth plugins, but it's really interesting. Probably gotta adjust my parameters. I don't have enough energy. Where's level? It takes a certain amount of energy and I don't have it set up right, so. But it's great. And then the other synth that's the new one added to the collection is the Triton Extreme, which has all of the cards and the samples that we did for the Triton. We had a lot more drums added over time to this. If you go down here to the categories, I was going through some of these. My gosh, it's just an endless list. One thing, if you look at these, back in the day for voicing, if you find patches that have lots of symbols in the name, those are almost guaranteed to be patches I made because I was really big on doing silly things with symbols in the patch names. So it's one of those things so I could find my own patches in the patch list because otherwise I wouldn't remember them or something like that. So you'll see a lot of stuff from time to time with funny patch names and so forth. But really great drum kits. Orchestra hit. These were state of the art in the 90s, right? Yes, Bellboy. There's so much to explore. If you go to the combination mode, I was finding all sorts of things here that some of these definitely sound like things that I do now in Unify. let's see, let's get my volume. Oh. What? Oh. I'm working with beta software and we've got a couple things I didn't know we could do. That's interesting. All sorts of fun. This is a patch I'm sure Jack made. Jack and McKelly were our two orchestral. All the B3 organs and stuff, that's Michael Geisel and Jack Hotop. Most of them. We each kind of had our own little places to go and so forth, so. It's great to have, it's so fun to play these after so many years of not playing them. I have a Triton downstairs. And here's the Triton Extreme. So those are the 3 synths added to all the other ones in the list. Again, the Wave Station is there, which is near and dear to my heart. The Poly 6 has a really, really great spirit to it. It's got the same filter that it's got that same kind of woody character of the original. Good stuff. All right, I think we will stop here. 2 hours is longer than my usual live streams, but just want you guys to know that there's some really cool stuff going on. Make sure you check out the Korg collection. Make sure you check out from Minimal Audio Rift. It's a wonderful, wonderful audio effect that is easy to use. It's nice to have. I might make a separate video going over that and talking about how to use it a bit to show how to, you go to this little knob page for the parameters of what's going on in this engine. And all you have to do is just click the dot and bring it over the parameter that you want it to modulate. And then click on that little modulated area and drag, and you'll see the depth go up or down in the direction you want it to go. And then you start to see the modulation happen that it's responsible for. So it's very easy to understand how it works. And there's a lot of really cool, interesting patches too. So shout out to both them and to Korg, of course. Thank you to them for helping make this happen. Oh, and one last thing to point out. Thank you, Shane, my dear friend. At the plugandguru.com website, it's the Mega Serum Weekend. For today and tomorrow, I've got, if you go here and you click this link, it will go to a page where I've actually stuck some other libraries on sale too, including Noisebox and Discover Station for Unify. But down here, you've got Camoji for $19, which is a really cool library, and MegaWave for Serum. And like we talked about earlier, MegaWave is a library I did with Seth Norman. Most of the wavetables I made, he made some too. The wavetables that are in here are inside of a couple Korg products. They're inside of the Korg, what's it? The Wave, it's called Electribe Wave on the iPad. And now in ModWave, the wavetables that I created, they've licensed that are included with this library are now included in ModWave. So they're great libraries. I can show them really quickly. Let's go over here, called Serum. In fact, they're both unified, so they show up now here. Camoji has just a whole bunch of no prisoners. Stuff like this. There's risers. There's this bass is bigger than leads. Right? All sorts. Komoji is probably the most EDM of the libraries that we have done. And then MegaWave comes with an Epic and an Evil. And Epic is more for trance and techno. So you'll find a lot of things that are more dance oriented. When you get to Evil, is just complete rip your head off. All sorts of Reese. Kicks and you know. Really fun stuff. And again, if you open up Serum and you just init the patch, in fact, I think these libraries, most of my libraries, I try to put an init patch somewhere in here. Let's see if there's an init. Maybe not. I think because there's a way to just go over here and say new, right? Menu. Init preset. So if you go here to the waveform list to MegaWave, take this down an octave, unison it out. All sorts of interesting wavetables. And if you turn on oscillator B and turn it down and then do cross mod like FM from B. Those are all the tricks that we use to make the patches in Serum for these libraries. And they're on sale this weekend, only until Sunday night. It's a short weekend sale, so you got to jump on it now or it will be gone. Rotten Razor is on sale. Evil Razor's on sale. The Massive Power Pack's on sale. So jump over to the website if you want. Thank you, all of you, for joining. This has been a really fun live stream. I like these where we can get some people to join us and talk. All right. Let me just see what's going on here. So mod wheel wave. Yeah, cool. All right. So shout out from Portland. Shout out. Portland. Yes, shout out. There's Keith in Liverpool. How you doing, mate? I'm gonna try to do my English. Yeah, Sematics is also a really good company. They're I don't know what to say about them. These guys make the dubstep patches that you hear in so many of the albums, and you know, they're great. So if you don't know about Cymatics, they're a great company to follow. Echo Soundworks, their Coda is an insanely cool library because he took wavetables of samples of instruments and turned them into Serum patches. So there's all sorts of tubas. Just really experimental, cool stuff. Choir. Oh, I got some drums coming from somewhere. That's not in here. Oh. Well, it shouldn't be in here, but for some reason it's... all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of good libraries for Serum from a lot of companies. There's probably more libraries for Serum than anything else, but ours are on sale. So Head over there if you want some inspiring patches. Thank you. Shout outs to each of you guys. Milwaukee, Atlanta, Georgia. Good to see you, Larry. Simeon, good to see you in the Bluegrass State. I think it's Tennessee, right? From the UK. You guys are all over the place. I love seeing all you guys show up. So thank you for joining us. Be well. We will see you. I'll do a live stream next week and then probably not the one after that. Oh, wait. I'll be back. Yeah. So we can. I don't think there's going to be a stop. It never stops. Never stops. All right. Be well. We'll see you later.